Hello, ladies and gents. Today we are going to review my notes in the English accent for extra emphasis. We are studying interdisciplinary material of the highest and most advanced form of knowledge known to man. But no, we're going over my notes. We're doing the math section. And we were learning about shapes, which are um, closed forms with connecting lines, or line segments. So we just did the section of triangles, which have three sides and three angles, and we learned that there's equilateral triangles, which have three sides measuring the same, and three angles measuring the same. Isosceles triangles, two sides and two angles opposite those sides measuring the same, and scalene triangles with three sides having all different measurements. So, and right triangles have a one angle being 90 degrees or right, and the sides are going to be just different. Um, Two of them are going to be shorter, and the third one, the longer side opposite the right angle, is going to be the hypotenuse. So the way you find perimeter is easy. You add the three sides of the triangle. A plus side A plus side B plus side C equals the perimeter of that triangle. For area, you need a right angle in order to have a height. So the height and the base are the two legs of a right triangle. So to find the area, you're going to have height times base over 2, which is divided by 2. And then if you want to find side lengths of a right triangle, you use the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So to find the third or longest side, which is the hypotenuse, you go c equals square root of a squared plus b squared. So in order to find unknown measurements or values for angles, you just have to use those the perimeter and area formulas and the Pythagorean theorem sometimes, and for right. And sometimes if you have irregular triangles like obtuse or acute, etc., you have to transform them into you may have to cut them up in like two triangles within one triangle in order to form a right angle and a right triangle in order to find certain measurements. So, and to find the height and the base, etc. Okay, so just use common sense. I don't know if we might go over this in the future videos. More detail, but okay. So the next section is quadrilaterals, which are also shapes like triangles, but instead of three sides, they have four sides. That's why they're called quadrilaterals, quad being four and laterals being sides. So, and these obviously are two-dimensional shapes if you're gonna find areas, etc. The quadrilaterals, which are made of four straight connecting lines, include rectangle, square, parallelogram, rhombus, and trapezoid. They're just connected in different ways and different angles. They all have four sides. So the points where the sides meet are called vertices, which is a plural word for vertex. So these are the meeting points. And you have four sides and four angles, and as a rule, the interior angles of a quadrilateral sum to 360 degrees. So all four angles add up to 360 degrees. For quadrilaterals, just like for triangles, you can find perimeter, which is the sum of the lengths of the sides, all the sides. So in this case, 4 sides. And the area of the quadrilateral as well, you can find it. So again, perimeter is sum of lengths of all 4 sides. P is perimeter equals S1 plus S2 plus S3 plus S4, which are side 1 plus side 2, so side 3 plus side 4. If each side is 4 centimeters, 3.5, 2, and 4.5, you add all those, you get 14 centimeters for the perimeter of that quadrilateral. So the first type is a square. A square is where all 4 sides are of equal length and all 4 angles are right angles or 90 degrees. So with equal sides, you can just find perimeter by multiplying each one side times 4. You get that. For a rectangle, you have 2 pairs of parallel identical length sides and 2 pairs, so 2 and 2, and being the same, all the 4 angles are 90 degrees, okay, in the interior of the rectangle. So P perimeter equals 2W, which is 2 times width, plus 2 times length, 2L, so 2W plus 2L, okay. And if you had one side being 2 inches, one side, and one side being 7 inches, you go 2 times 7 plus 2 times 2 equals 18 units for perimeter. So areas on the 2-dimensional plane for a square with the 4 equal sides, etc., area is just going to be S times S, or S squared. So if you have one side being 4 centimeters, you square that. So S squared is 4 times 4 is 16 centimeters, and your units will be in squared. So always write whatever the units are squared. For the rectangle, it's basically the same. It's going to be length times width instead of side times side, since they're different lengths. So if you had one side being 2 inches and one being 7, you just multiply, you get 7 times 2 is 14 inches squared again for area. Parallelograms are basically considered the same as rectangles. And they have the same formula for everything as rectangle. So again, it's just length times width, and 2 length plus 2 width for perimeter, and length times width for area and squared units. And for the angles, you have 2 opposite angles being identical, and then 2 other opposite angles being identical, but all the 4 angles are not identical, obviously, like in a rectangle. So only 2 are. So 2 sets of identical angles. And another term they use is congruent. So you have 2 sides being congruent and 2 angles being congruent, which is basically like saying similar or the same, or like complementary kind of. So squares, rhombuses, rectangles, parallelograms are all very similar and use similar formulas for perimeter and area. Trapezoid is a little bit different, even though it is a quadrilateral. So with the parallelogram, if you know one angle, like one is 70 degrees for the acute, you can find the adjacent angle. So you will subtract 180 minus 70, so you know the second angle is going to be 110. So this is knowing that all 4 angles add up to 360, therefore 2 angles that are right next to each other will add up to 180, which is half the shape, the parallelogram. We'll continue on the next part.